Rainier Avenue Radio.
PrEP is a daily pill that can significantly reduce your chances of getting HIV, and typically it takes a trip to a physician to get it. Now you can visit select pharmacies, get tested on the spot, and walk away with your first month of PrEP. It's easier than ever to protect yourself from HIV, and with all the coverage options, you can get it at a very low cost. To find your nearest participating pharmacy, go to doh.wa.gov/PrEP now. That's doh.wa.gov/PrEP. Do it now. This is a message from the Washington State Department of Health and Public Health, Seattle and King County.
Rainier Avenue Radio presents All Music, All Day Saturday. Music, all day Saturday.
This is Edwin Bailey, Bulldog Blue.
Jazz from the Cabinets.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Start Time.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul Pierce. This is Start Time.
Saturdays, all music, all day. Reggae Hour. K-Fox Night.
Looking for the perfect beat? Yeah, it's the beat of the Fox.
Fresh Juice with D-Money and the crew.
Myself, D-Money.
Ice Patron.
Taylor Hart.
Resistencia. The Northwest Rap Game.
DJ Medina. Chad Cheddar. Northwest Rap Game.
Sergio LaCour's Love Line.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell them who we talk.
Sea Monster Radio. Mo Jams. It's your jam.
We're live. Welcome to Mojo Mondays. This is KZ of KZ Music Media. Caller Goddess for Mojo Mondays.
Just my opinion. God is inspiration all day and all night. Saturdays on RainierAvenueRadio.org.
Women Empowerment Talk Radio, your roadmap to business success. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. on RainierAvenueRadio.world, providing resources and sharing motivational experiences from the everyday entrepreneur. Tune in Women Empowerment Talk Radio every Sunday, 3 p.m. on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Are you a small business owner in Seattle who was impacted by COVID-19? The Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. The Small Business Capital Access Program will lower the cost of Washington State Small Business Flex Fund loans by paying down 25% of the loan principal. Eligible small businesses can borrow up to $150,000 with a 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You're listening to HeartBeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. HeartBeat Radio is a conversation aimed to take the pulse of corporate America. Opportunities for people of color. We're getting lost in the shuffle of change. I'm that provocateur of change. The hearts of corporate America are addressed. Access and opportunities will be accelerated for all people. Through HeartBeat Radio, you will gain a deeper understanding of what is necessary for change.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I am your host, Cindi Bright. I'm glad you could join us tonight. I had quite a faux pas last week with not being able to carry out the show. Because of my technology, my unstable Wi-Fi, and I think Joy was having unstable Wi-Fi, so we decided to defer some of last week's show to tonight. Before I bring Joy in, let me just kind of set the stage. We do have a special guest with us coming on the second half of the show. You're going to be thrilled to get to meet her. I know I was when I initially met her. Her personal story, her run for Congress now, will be inspiring and very provocative. So I can't wait till we get to the second half. Before we do that, Joy and I wanted to have a conversation about several things. Look, we're all watching. We all know that we are 40 days away from, I've got some feed coming in here. We're about 40 days away from election. We know that there are several things at risk right now, at stake. We know that Republicans only have to have a net gain of one seat to get the Senate. We know that we have an economy, inflation, so many things that are facing us as a nation, including our rights our human rights, our voting rights, women's rights, these are all on the ballot, whether we understand that or not. Let's bring in Joy with us right now to continue this conversation. Hey, Joy.
Hey.
There's some feed coming from you somehow. I don't know what it is, but it's a back echo or something going on. I'm just letting you know. Anyhow, our listeners won't want to know that. I'm just letting you know in case it starts to bounce on your end. Welcome back to HeartBeat. We weren't able to come on last week, and here we are, and we're a month away from elections. And I just kind of wanted to talk with you live about all these issues that are there. Good evening, Bonnie. Thank you for joining us tonight again. That's one of our consistent viewers. We were going to talk last week, women's rights is in the election, and we were going to have a conversation about women's rights, what's on the ballot, and the fact that we had both watched a show that was recommended to me to watch, and then I recommended you to watch it, which was called Mrs. America. That was the Equal Rights Amendment era. So this was the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And where do you want to start with that? Because everything I was watching about that was exactly where we are today.
Why are we repeating? I'm going to make sure you guys' books are in my background. Why are we repeating history once again? Why are we in the moment where Black women are being asked to step up? And when we do step up, there's no appreciation. And I won't say that from everyone, but most certainly we felt that. Both you and I have felt that. You more so than I, because I had somewhat of some backing, when I ran for office. So, but when I was watching it, it was so funny that you said watching it. Then I was like binging it. I was like, oh my God, I got to sleep and stop binging this show, But I did. I binged it over a weekend because I was at home and I
remember I was stunned when you told me you were done with it.
I was like, I'm done. What are we doing? I need to go back and rewatch and do notes. But I found it interesting that the women that were being portrayed at the end were getting jobs, having their own accounts, having bank accounts, were all of a sudden doing what at the beginning of the movie they were fighting against. We want to be in the home and we, cooking and baking and raising our kids. But then we see what happened at the end, and you give up your leverage, you give up all that you hold close to your vest in your heart, and you give it up and you get nothing, and it puts you right back to where you were. So that was just
that's the lesson in that. Today I read this article. I think it actually came out today, and I can't remember where I caught it, but it was about the fact that because women's rights are on the docket, that there are a lot of women who are running against each other in the Democratic Party to try to take seats, right? So what will be interesting about that all in itself, let me say a couple of things about it. Because when I ran against a Democrat, as you know.
Yes.
The Democrat on Democrat races are normally very taboo in terms of the party touching it or backing your help. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is what will happen when these women, so these are, when we talk along the lines of race, when you looked at that, when we watched that show, Mrs. America, they were Democrat versus Republican, even though the point that you were making about the issues that the Democratic women were facing and fighting for, that the Republican women were dismissing them for, the Republican women ended up suffering in the very same way that the Democratic women were fighting. And so I know that's the point you were making about it. And here we are today in 2022. And now we've got the same party having multiple women on the same ticket. And my question is, I was reading some of it earlier today, and I started thinking, because even in that Mrs. America series, Shirley Chisholm, you get to see what happens with the Black women when the Black women were raising issues and using their voices. And you got to watch the way the Black women were ultimately pushed aside. So here we are now. And speaking as a Black woman, as a Black journalist woman, you know, I got nervous when I read that article today about the multiple white women that are all running against each other, because the pattern of behavior that comes out of white women historically and currently is that they clamor for this power and then they sell out all the other women that are helping them get elected. And so I'm curious and I'm nervous at the same time, because the work that you and I do around trying to help amplify and bring women, brown and Black women candidates forward and help them get elected. What's going to happen when we don't occupy a lot of the spaces and a lot of the seats that these women who claim they're running for our rights, to protect our rights, get in? And will they sell out all the other women around them? Because that is a very common, I don't care how you cut it. Black women will tell you, I can list 10 authors right now who write about this very topic. Is this going to be problematic for us as women when other women get elected into office that don't look like us?
I don't feel that way. I don't feel the same way you do. Because I think the divisiveness that's happening within the party is establishment and progressive. So first of all, we have an issue there, because there are women who are outspoken in all different races. And I mean races as in Black, white, Asian, AAPI, indigenous, whatever, who want to push. And we saw what happened when those progressive women wanted to push. They are no longer running. And I'm not naming any names, but that's me on the outside looking in. Here's somebody who wanted to make stuff happen, get things done. Let's move it along. And they're no longer running.
While the majority of people in this country want progress. And so
yes,
we talk about
they're not willing to push for it.
So I think you're kind of making my point in a different way, because the progressive women will be the ones that will get silenced, because the people that will get promoted from the Dem party will be the women who line up. And so women who line up are the women that will sell out other women in this process. And so I don't
feel like all of them will. I don't feel like all of them will. But
okay, so
there is that thing that's there that could happen. Absolutely. And we've seen it happen. And we saw it happen in that series where all the progressive women were like, no, we need to do this. And they were like, shh, nope. We got to do this.
Is that the same as Nancy Pelosi doing this to the squad when they were speaking? Do you remember that?
Oh, I don't remember that. What?
When she did this? And I remember watching it.
I don't remember that. What the? Okay. See, but what they're saying is what Americans are saying, what the majority of Americans are saying, what the squad is saying. What do we want? We want reproductive rights. We want affordable housing. We want clean water in Michigan.
We want the same things that they have.
Yes.
Right.
We want intergenerational wealth. We want our kids to have opportunities. It's like, yes, we want all the same things. But then you're like, what does that mean?
So that's the point I'm making, is that, that's my nervousness about, women stepping up. We do need them, because we absolutely cannot have this patriarchy continue to have the power.
Correct.
I've not seen in my 58 years, I've watched, I could come out of the business world. Everybody knows that. I've watched what goes on with women who get power, with white women, they get power. And so I'm just making that point because I think it's an important thing for us to pay attention to as women start to gain power across the country. Who will get left behind in this process? And will they actually look out and bring along the BIPOC women in this process? And will brown and Black women actually be able to progress in this era that we're heading into? So that's just kind of my takeaway from the series too. Is it was disappointing at how it ended. It was disappointing to watch what women did to each other.
Yeah,
it was so unbelievable to
because you don't agree, you want to silence that person. Because you don't agree, they don't agree with you and the group, you want to silence that person. I felt like the one character woman had valid points, and she started to question what they were doing. I think the whole group should have been like, okay, is what we're doing of value to women as a whole? Because there's women whose husbands were dying in the war, going to war. You're by yourself. You got to make everything happen. We see that every day.
And for the people who haven't seen it, it's a must watch. From if you follow politics, want to watch it, because there's so much similarity between then and now. There's so much similarity that the racial reckoning that's happening in the, I'll just call it organizations and justice for brown and black people inside of business, that's real. And those behaviors that go on, remember in the series when Phyllis, how do you pronounce her last name?
Schlafly.
Yeah. She just had to be the center of attention, right? She just had to have her common behavior. Let me just call that out. And then she did all this work. And remember, she put together, back then, there wasn't email and all the technology we have now. So she did.
There was no Excel sheets. There was no Excel sheets. And
none of it.
And she all by hand.
And gave it to them. This is the Ronald Reagan era. Gave it to the guys because they promised her
a seat on the
table. And do you think she got that seat?
Nope. She was right back in the kitchen at the end of that movie.
Yep.
Or that series. I was like, all that work you did, and this is where you are. Like, we have got to move ahead, but we've got to do it together. Yeah. There's no way around this. I feel like we've got to do this together with everybody's needs met. You know what I mean? Like, we're not keeping anybody out. What we're saying is we are going to include everyone as we move forward. We say at Emerge, I think I got this right. You raise as you climb. So you're raising someone up behind you. Yeah. Just like what we're doing when we were at the Emerge event, the birthday celebration, and we were talking to all these women who are running, and we're like, no, we are happy you are running. This is what we experienced, but you can do this. We're encouraging and empowering.
And here's an ad I'm gonna pitch, because I do think, first off, I agree with you that we have to do this together.
We do.
But, however, in the business world, you can see how when you talk about diversity, progress, or lack thereof,
it's different. It's different.
It's not different, right? It's the same issue.
It's the same, but
in a different system, but it's the same behavior. And because I'm going to continue to use the word behaviors, because that is fundamentally. So let me just say this. So in the business world, organization leaders would say that the reason why they haven't progressed is because, we don't have enough candidates. We just don't have enough people. Wells Fargo CEO, you just see it all the time, right? We don't do it. Yes, you do. What you don't understand is the Phyllis Schlaflies are in the middle management. But here's the point I'm about to make.
Gatekeeping.
The gatekeepers. If the Democratic Party wants to have real effective change, and they are slamming or pushing back on the progressive women, that's a label. The Democrats are going to have to start to say no to these white women candidates and start backing the brown and black candidates that are competing against them in this process. They will not be able to succeed while the Democrats don't touch and help the diverse candidates. They think that the strategy of hands off, I don't want to create, it's failing brown and black people. You can see it by how lack of progress in business. You can see it by the racial wealth gap. You can see it by lack of health care. You can see it by every metric out there that if somebody is an effective leader, they're going to have to start standing up and saying no to a demographic of people that are historically privileged and helped and propelled into seats of power. We cannot change it while leadership doesn't take a different strategy. That's my take on it. And that's why, as I'm watching women challenge each other for these seats, we all know women's behavior. They'll tear down and try to harm somebody else for a damn dollar or power. And we cannot, that's not going to serve
Well,
anybody.
we saw that in one district where there were 5 or 6 Democratic women, and the one with the least amount of money made it out of the primary. I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to name any LDs. Anybody listening will know. If they watch politics, they'll know. I found that quite interesting. She's a woman of color. And so I was like, yes, like it doesn't always matter how much money you raise, and it doesn't always, what matters is the voters you've talked to. What is your platform? And are you true and authentic?
So I would add to that. Hi, Harriet. I see Harriet's been commenting. Harriet Walden does another radio show in the town here. So kudos to, she's out here fighting the fight too. I would add to what you said, Joy. I don't totally agree with that statement that it's about your platform, because even though your platform may be wanted and necessary, you can't. It is difficult for grassroots people. We watched it here. Look at the Seattle City Council races. The people that went out and pulled in hundreds of thousands of dollars, but didn't have the backing and the push of the engine behind the scenes. Everybody can't see it. There is an engine that operates behind the scenes. And so if the engine doesn't want you in, you ain't getting in, period. So, I mean, this is just kind of, my normal straight talk about, because we're heading into some really interesting times. And so if you look at, you look at Joe Biden's poll numbers, he's not polling well in terms of popularity.
But he's helping the greater good, the majority of people. The things that he's signing and putting in place are helping the majority of people. And it burns my butt that Republicans cannot admit that. And I'm not talking the Republicans that are in Washington, D.C., making the rules and making the bills. I'm talking Republicans right here in Washington. Hi, Alicia. I talked to her today. Right here in Washington, making, $50,000 a year. You are not wealthy. They are not making bills and policies that are going to do better for you. They're making policies that do better for them as wealthy people. Biden is making policy that does well for the greater good of the people, no matter who you are. So I don't look at poll numbers. I'm like, whatever. Because I probably could have had that. We probably could have had that if we'd been elected. I mean, is this person doing well? Is that really a grade? Hello. What did I sign into law? That's what people want to know when they're looking at our elected officials.
Do you think he's going to be blamed for the inflation that we are? Because I read again today, they're looking at raising rates again. Like, I don't know how. I just been reading.
My kids aren't going to be able to buy a house, which I'm hoping they get in within the next 30 days because they're not going to be able to buy a house if the rates keep going up, which is going to suck. But I get it. I do think he's going to be blamed. I don't think it's on him. I think we're trying to right sides the ship. I hope anyway. When I was in DC in May, they're trying to do really good things. And I say that both sides of the aisle were trying to do good things. People who still had sense. And then we saw the
who would that be?
Both the Republicans and the Dems. I had conversations with Republicans and Dems.
I was being sarcastic when you said people with sense. Who is that? Who are you referring to, Joy?
So I think we're trying to right size the ship, but absolutely folks are going to, look what the commercials are. Can I just tell you, I'm really sick of the political commercials.
I'm going to say whose commercial I'm sick of. I'm sick of. Here's our differences again. I'm sick of Tiffany Smiley crap. Like hers.
It's a lie. I'm just gonna say it. It's a lie, Cindy.
It's so bad. And
Starbucks did not close that just because of crime.
And I think people with common sense
know
can
that
understand that clips of, the snippets of what Kim Schreier and how they portray it without context is nothing but this. And again, but this is why so many people are sick of it, sick of politics. Right. We can't get more people to vote when we got to look at that kind of garbage on air every 2 minutes. Smiling all day. Yes. It's so frustrating watching.
Did you see my last post?
No.
87,000 IRS agents, a stadium full of IRS agents are coming for you. No, they're not. It's 87,000 IRS agents over the next 10 years to replace retiring and folks leaving the agency. That's what I posted. Here's the true fact. 87,000 over 10 years. We have an older population that works for the IRS. It's a great job. There's great benefits. There's great working environment. We need to make sure that we keep that. They're not coming for you because you don't make millions of dollars. They're not coming for you. Just saying.
Speaking of making millions of dollars.
I like your segue.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about, for back to the Joe Biden, whether he's popular or not, or any of that. I heard you on your point about polls, because there's a large group of people that aren't being polled that you haven't the people unleashed in this process of that they can't see. So your numbers can't possibly be. But from a Black woman's perspective, from a Black people's perspective, the issues that put Joe Biden in office, that those of us who are propelling it is Black people that continue to show up. And yet, back to the millions of dollars, we got $10,000 worth of student debt relief, and there's lawsuits on it. And these folks don't want to see BIPOC people get ahead at all. So we know the normal pattern of behavior. We know the games that they're going to play. But why can't we, if I hear one more politician say, well, let me say that different. If I hear one more MAGA Republican try to bring up the what this is going to cost the economy after what they have done to this economy and after what they have done. I've said to any MAGA person, don't say jack crap to me about money because of what the MAGAs have done. But we need more than just $10,000 worth of student debt relief. If $10,000 made a difference in, I'm not trying to look a gift horse in a mouth and say that it's not something, because it is something, and I think that's good. Right. But what do you think we should or can do to get more progress for brown and Black people, and so that our lives can improve? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I first thought, thank you for the 10,000. 50% or all would have been better. Just because you want to start the economy, you're canceling and forgiving loans from celebrities in the millions and billions. Mm-hmm. How? And then the only thing that folks are complaining about is the $10,000 loan forgiveness for student debt. But you're not talking about the millions of PPP loans that are being forgiven.
Mm-hmm. Did you see the
post? There's something wrong, systemically wrong with this system. There it is. It's laid out for you right there. And so that for me was just...
And even when to me, the economics of it are obvious, right? And so what it does for our economy, what it does for families, and the fact that it is still, blocked at where any sort of help, even though all of the data shows all of the data shows who the socialists are in this country. It's not Black people. All of the data shows who's living on welfare systems, the highest race that's living on welfare systems. Everybody's seen who took money, and because it's public information and there were receipts to show all the hypocrisy in this process.
Yes.
I'm just making a point that, look, we are at midterm elections. The Democrats want us to continue to show up, and we do continue to show up and help candidates get into office. But where is the reciprocity when it comes to our families and our lives and the future of our family and our generations, when we have been left so far behind and we keep getting pat on the head and said, okay, but next time, okay, but next time. Okay, well, okay, no, we'll start with 10,000. At this rate, my grandkids won't be able to, make it. So anyhow, long story. We are at the half. We're going to take a break. And hopefully our candidate for Congress, Natasha Hill, she's scheduled to come on at 7:30. So we'll be right back.
That up in Saks, our favorite Black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yo.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not shouting "Badia" at city council meetings, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Are you a small business owner in Seattle who was impacted by COVID-19? The Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. The Small Business Capital Access Program will lower the cost of Washington State Small Business Flex Fund loans by paying down 25% of the loan principal. Eligible small businesses can borrow up to $150,000 with a 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies.
1, 2, get down! What's up, big and little homies? This is Masvita Maraire, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio .world, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Metro, King County. This is where you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
See a bad.
What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Queen Bree, inviting you to come join me on Clean Greens Living. Broadcasted Tuesdays, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. On Clean Greens Living, we talk farming, community, and ways to being healthy. So come join me and let's discuss ways to create a healthier you and a healthier community.
Atlantic Street Center has been serving the children, youth, and families of the Seattle-King County area since 1910. We partner with families and communities to raise healthy, successful children and youth through services including counseling, early learning, youth development, domestic violence, and education support for school-aged children. Committed to serving the African-American community, Atlantic Street Center provides services and support for all marginalized people. Learn more at AtlanticStreetCenter.org.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
That up in Saks, our favorite Black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yo.
Welcome back to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I am your host, Cindi Bright. Joy and I were just having a conversation in the first half about the upcoming elections, the fact that we're about 40 days out, I think 35, 40 days out. And we are focusing the second half of our show on what I'm going to call a rural area. She may not agree with that statement, but certainly Eastern Washington. It behooves us to see, hear, learn, understand, donate to, and vote for people who are progressive and who have stepped into this Congress race that's going on. So let me bring Joy in with me. We've got Natasha signed in. I think she's trying to sign on right now to be on camera, but she is here in the studio with her. So as soon as she is on camera, we will bring her on. I'm excited to have her on. I met her with you, Joy, at the Emerge event a 3 weeks ago. So we have a lot of great women coming out of the Emerge program. In fact, I saw that the Emerge, let's bring her in. She's on camera now. The Emerge program is reopening now for 2023 candidates. There she is. Oh,
there she is in the dark. Where are you?
So I am just leaving a candidate forum in Dayton, which is Columbia County, which is one of the 12 counties that make up the 5th congressional district in Washington state.
Are you safe? Are you in a safe area?
Yeah, we're in a very safe area. I don't know how great the lighting is, so I do apologize.
No, now it's
but I'm on the road with the kiddos, and I'm just doing the do of being a candidate.
Yep, we know.
We understand. We understand.
Well, Natasha, welcome. We wanted to give you an opportunity to talk to our audience about who you are, why you're running, how's the campaign going, how are you being received, what's happening in Spokane. That's the 5th district, right? The congressional district.
That's right. Our 5th congressional district here in Eastern Washington, as I mentioned, is 12 counties deep. So it's very vast. We go up and down the Idaho border, up to Canada, down to Oregon. We're about a third of the state. So getting around takes a little bit of time, but it's actually been great to connect with communities across our district. My campaign started as a listening campaign. I took some notes from being on the Spokane County redistricting committee. Just like our state had to redistrict our legislative districts, our Spokane County had to redistrict from 3 county commissioners to 5. And I was a part of that committee. It was a bipartisan committee and really my first venture into politics. But I did take the note on getting around, listening to different communities to hear what the priorities are. As a U.S. House representative, that's your job. You're there to represent the interests of the people in your district. And the only way to know what those interests are to show up and listen and chat, talk to people, be in conversation. Also talk to some experts. I met lots of folks. We've got lots of universities, community colleges over here. So lots of professors who are knowledgeable in very different areas that I can gain more information and really learn about the needs of my community so that once elected, I can be the best representative possible.
What's your platform?
Before we ask her that, I think the audience should hear your background. You have quite an interesting background. Talk to us about not just your education, but where you come from.
Well, and I'm from Eastern Washington, so actually 4th generation of my family to grow up in Northeast Spokane. It's the Hilliard neighborhood is where I come from, which is pretty notable. We're kind of the school of hard knocks, very poor neighborhood, one of the poorest in our state. So you got to really work hard to get ahead. So I learned at a very young age to take advantage of every opportunity available to me. And that meant I had to start taking care of myself a lot earlier than maybe some other folks. I, at 16 years old, moved out and started doing Running Start to take college classes to get ahead on my degree. I finished my 4-year degree in 3 years out of high school. I graduated from the University of Washington and then went on to law school. For me, law school and being a lawyer was sight unseen.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that. Was sight unseen, and then it goes dark, right? That was not for effect, I promise. But it was something that I knew that if I finished this degree, I really looked at it as a great hustle for my education. I'd be able to make good money, make sure I could take care of my family, and lift me and my family out of poverty. I grew up with a family of domestic workers and laborers who didn't have opportunities to, save for retirement, pay for college. So I'm one of those who also took on 6-figure student loan debt in order to get my degree. And none of these things were possible or easy, but I had a lot of help from people in my community. They helped me get to college and through college. They helped me to get to law school and through law school. I passed the California State Bar exam first time, which was a huge accolade. Came back to Washington State with 2 kids and wanted to start my practice and be close to family. And coming back to Spokane was best thing I ever decided to do. It allowed me to have a great change in lifestyle from being a commuter and just having more time to spend with family and kids. And then it helped me have time to get organized in my community. after George Floyd was murdered and we saw the resurgence of our civil rights movement, people getting back out and wanting to organize to make sure that there is accountability and that our justice system is doing that for everyone, regardless of your background, the color of your skin, what you look like, where you come from. And so I wanted to get out and be more involved. And that's how I ended up deciding to get involved and run this race as a first-time candidate. Like I said, lifting up voices from communities that I belong to that have just been overlooked and underrepresented for far too long.
I thought it was an important story to tell about where you come from. And when I said that, I meant that. I'm glad you described it metaphorically about the adversity that you have overcome. This is an important thing. It's an important issue from my perspective. I said this when I ran 4 years ago, that the kind of people that we need to have elected in office now, what qualified means in today's world is not people who come from, privilege and who've never had to do the kind of things that you're describing, what you had to do, what I had to do, what Joy had to do. Like, our lives are different. And so the suffering that we take on in our lives, to be able to come then look back at our communities and our ability to recognize where suffering is happening with people, in my opinion, should be the number one qualifier for anybody running for public office. So Joy had a question for you. I just wanted to
No, I think you're absolutely right. And thank you, Natasha, for sharing your story. No one ever asks us as candidates, what's your story? They don't know maybe the domestic violence we've endured. Leaving home at 16, I was out of the house by the time I was 16 as well. So we share that in common. And I graduated high school. I did not do running starts. Obviously, I'm not as smart as Natasha, but I had a job right out of high school. So I appreciate hearing your story. Can you just tell us a little bit about what your platform contains? What are the top issues that you are fighting for in your congressional district?
Absolutely. Well, part of the listening campaign helped me really hone in on these issues. First and foremost, and this goes beyond my region, obviously, looking at national things as well, strengthening labor and unions. Ultimately, we have the wealth inequality in our nation is frankly disgusting. And we have a representative who is gung-ho for protecting corporate interests, for giving out corporate welfare, and then turning around and blaming social spending programs for inflation. And ultimately, we're not paying.
Say that louder.
Right. We're not paying our laborers the true value of their labor. In fact, our labor in this country has created so much value, and we're not sharing in it. But we're expected to show up at work and to play the game. This reminds me of the Dolly Parton 9 to 5 song, because it's true. I encourage everybody to go back and listen to them lyrics, because there's just so much truth in that, in terms of working 95 to put money in the rich man's pocket. That's what we're being asked to do. So I really want to focus on making sure we empower our laborers through unions. Whether you're in a union or not, unions set the standard. The only reason companies like Starbucks actually do well by their employees is to avoid them unionizing. And if it wasn't for unions, that standard wouldn't be set, and they would be able to get away with a whole lot more exploitation. So that's one of my platform pieces. Investing in children and families, which for me includes those investments in childcare, paid family leave, but also healthcare and our environment. These are the things children and families need to thrive. And so we have to be investing. In infrastructure is a part of that too. We know that when we invest in things like childcare and education, we're talking preschool, K through 12, and higher ed, we get a return on those investments well beyond the money we paid. That means those investments pay for themselves and reduce our deficit. I'm a product of that. Social spending programs like welfare are what helped my family survive so that we could later on thrive. If it wasn't for those welfare programs, I wouldn't have made it through college. I wouldn't have made it through law school. My family wouldn't have been able to meet their basic needs for us to even have a dream of being able to lift ourselves out of poverty, and be able to achieve our, whatever our passions and our dreams are. And we all have them. And so making sure there's more pathways and opportunities is a priority. The last piece, my third prong of that platform, is focusing on protecting our democracy and really our constitutional rights. As I mentioned with the civil rights resurgence, And now recently with the Supreme Court rolling back reproductive rights with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we have a lot of work to do to make sure we're not fighting the same battles we've already fought and won, because folks are dead set on making these issues political to raise money for their candidates and their party in order to hold power. And that's what they're doing. They're holding power. And they're also fanning, flames of extremism, election deniers who are claiming, baseless fraud claims that can't be established in court. And at the end of the day, if you can't prove it in court, you don't got a case. So with that, we also need to make sure our representative isn't part of that problem. And Kathy McMorris Rogers, who's in office right now, is the only elected official in the state of Washington who is a pro-Trump Republican, who was an election denier, who objected to certifying the election, and has continued to turn a blind eye, as she has admitted to, ever since the insurrection and the attack on our Capitol. We can't have that in Eastern Washington. I know y'all know, even though you're not over here. I know y'all know. We have
we
fought
ain't
that
coming either,
extremism.
Natasha. We are gonna root you on.
Yeah, we have fought that extremism, and we have won, and we will do it again and again. And I know that there are people of all backgrounds, ethnicities, cultures, religions who are going to stand right next to me to fight back against this hate and the violence that's dividing this region and parts of our country. Because again, we are too close. This is too close to home for so many people in my community. We've done this dance. We don't want to do it again. And we need a representative who's going to stand up and be outspoken about these issues and not be silent and support it.
Is anybody else challenging her too? Do you have somebody else besides her?
No, it's just the two of us. So the primary,
they came to the top.
Yep. The top two came out of the primary, which was myself and the incumbent.
Yeah.
Our ballots drop October 21st, election November 8th. So I think you guys mentioned at the beginning, we are 34 days away from this election, November 8th.
That's why I was hounding you, I was hounding you to get you on, because we were trying to get, before ballots drop, we wanted people to be able to see, because a lot of people just don't, pay attention to it. And, I don't know where your name is on the ballot. I just remember, you're not in the same kind of race that I was in. So you have an R and a D.
Because we were down ballot. We were down ballot, way down ballot. Natasha's up at the top.
Good.
Yeah. One cool thing is, so Patty Murray's top of the ballot, top of the ticket, right? Then it's myself. And we have the county commissioner races I mentioned doing redistricting. We have 3 Democrats on the ballot, and we haven't had that before in Spokane County. So now we've got a really strong down ballot. And strategically, this was just the perfect time to jump in as a first-time candidate, because now we can turn up voter engagement to get all the Dems on the ballot elected.
That's right.
And so this is a very strategic effort. And it's something I'm committed to doing, repeatedly. This is a foundational building race. We do this every 2 years for U.S. House of Representatives. This is not a 4 or 6 year race. This is every 2 years. This race is building the foundation for any Democratic candidate who wants to join and get out there and put their name out there and do this work to have a strong opportunity of getting elected here in Eastern Washington.
I had mentioned right before the break, and if the producer can find the site before we close tonight, that you're out of the Emerge program. And Emerge is now taking applications for 2023 trainings. And so Emerge is one program. It's a national program that is here producing and training women to run for public office. And so for anybody who's listening to the show and wants some, I didn't go through it. Joy did. Natasha did. I think it's foundational things like teaching you how to run campaigns and so
how to raise money, how to knock doors, how to figure out your win number, who to hire, what to hire. It's all the things running for office. So yes, we are trying to get our 2023 cohort set, and applications are now open for that. So
I didn't realize, and I'm glad you mentioned, I didn't realize that the House of Representatives were every 2 years. I just thought that those seats were 4 years, but the local Senate seats are 4 years. The local House seats are 2 years, and the congressional representatives are 2 years. Is that right?
Yes.
That's a lot.
So you're always running for office.
Yeah.
So even when we win, we do this every 2 years.
Yes.
Yep.
And as a candidate, you basically only have 1 year because you
Right.
have to start a campaign and the movement a year before you actually run. So yes, but look, we love having candidates like you to come on. I think we just showed your website so that if
Let's
there's
do it again.
yeah, if we want anybody to donate to her campaign, we're at just about at the finish line with your race. So we are totally rooting you on. Is there anything, I know you've got your kids in your car, before you sign off, is there anything you want to make sure you say on air for people to hear?
Yes. Well, one thing is, because I know you guys are over on the West Side Seattle area, we have a fundraiser that we're planning October 15th. It's at the Hideout in Seattle. We've already got State Senator Mona Doss, and I get the pleasure of working with the mayor of SeaTac, Jake Simpson, as well on my campaign. So they're all already scheduled to be there co-hosting this fundraiser October 15th. The time is 6 to 8 p.m. So we want folks to come out and support us. Look, we need help from people on the West Side as well. We are really working hard to bring ourselves in alignment with the rest of Washington State. We want to have a representative. I want to make sure that we're right there with, Pramila, with Marilyn, with Kim, with all the congresswomen in place, with all of our congressional leadership. Not to leave out the dudes or anything, but to really make sure that we strengthen the leadership that we have here in Washington State, and to make sure Eastern Washington doesn't get left behind because they're not at the table, playing ball with the rest of them. The party division doesn't have to be there. This doesn't have to be a Democrat versus Republican thing. Unfortunately, our current representative has made that the issue, where she's not willing to work across the aisle and work with other representatives in order to meet the needs of people here in our state and in our region. So it is really important that we get support across the state, that we, make sure folks know that there are people here in Eastern Washington, because we are very closely connected. And I think that that's a really cool part. We've had a lot of transplants, people moving our way. So we want to take care of the folks that have been here, like myself and my family, generationally. And we want to embrace the people who are coming here and want to share this oasis we call Eastern Washington with us. So we just really appreciate the support, which is why we're coming over to do some fundraising over there. I'm very, very thankful to be in this position, to say yes to this opportunity, and be able to show people like me who come from backgrounds that are similar and are part of communities that I'm part of, what we can accomplish. I honestly believe we can win this race, and I know how we do it. We do it together. When our communities stand together, that's how they're healthier. That's how they're safer. That's how we make sure we're getting representation for all people, and getting our needs met. There's enough money out there. It's just a matter of folks having to pay their fair share, and taking care of what matters most, which is people. So again, I appreciate you both having me on here, for letting me share this platform with all of you. And I cannot wait for what's to come.
We can't either,
We
Natasha.
can't either.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us tonight. We appreciate it. We'll continue to push this show. It's being pushed right now. So we're going to try to get it in front of your voters to make sure you are seen and heard. Thank you for joining us. We are rooting you on.
Thank you. NatashaHillforCongress.com. You can get all the information on our website, and any support is appreciated. You guys have a wonderful night, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
You too, Natasha.
All right. Take care.
We got to get her in. We got to get her in. It's a thing. We got to get her in.
Yeah, that was really great to have her. She can tell she's an impressive woman, and I really enjoyed hearing her when I read about her background and what she has overcome. Like women who raise kids, and they just step out on their own and tackle a lot. And the area that she's in, that's heavily red. I think it's probably turning more blue over there. Yeah.
When I had somebody ask me, Cindy, I had someone ask me one time, how did you know what to do when you had a baby? I don't know, but I knew what to do. We just do what we have to do, and then we do more. I remember being a single mom, doing community work, working full time, working a part-time job. It's like we just do. We just do. And she's that person. She is that person. So I love it. And she's the exact person we want to be running for office. And that's the kind of
the third person she was referring to when she said there were 3 Democrats on the ticket. On different tickets? Do you know who else over there is?
What is it? Maggie Yates, Amber Waldriff, and I'd have to look it up. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, but the fact that they've got 5 now, 2 are Chris Jordan.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris Jordan.
Yeah.
Maggie Yates and Amber Waldriff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that there were 2 or 3, now there's 5. 2 are Dem, 2 are Republican, 1 is swing. So and it's not by a whole lot that 1 is Republican or 1 is Dem. You know what I'm saying? The 2 and 2 are Dem or Republican. It's not by a whole lot, but it does make it more fair. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Oh, I hear, the Republican woman that's in that seat, that's creating and perpetuating. It's almost like you don't want to even say Republican anymore. They're MAGA folks, right? They're just the MAGAs that are
still denying the election.
These are supremacists. Let's just be clear that people who are lying about claiming election fraud, upholding lies, these people are they are the white supremacists, and there's no other way to couch it or categorize it. And if we don't want
newsflash, he's the president.
Oh, it's just so frustrating to have to interact with that and deal with that. And yet, we need the Natasha Hills of the world. I think next week we'll show the Emerge application in case there are people that are sitting on the fence or not sure that they want to run. She looks a lot younger than me, which is why I'm so happy to root her on, because she probably has a whole lot more.
A lot of the women that are running are way younger than us. They're in their late 20s, early 30s, 40s. I'm loving it. I am here for all of it.
Me too.
Because this is what we needed. We needed women of color, younger women of color. Like, we need that generation to just be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm loving every minute. She said, I'm 40. You don't look 40, girl. You don't look 40. Stop. You know you're 25.
And Joy and I are considerably older than 40, Natasha.
Right. Way up. She said 40 is still young in politics.
Still willing to fight. But still willing to fight. So what do you say? Don't mistake.
Don't count us out. Don't count us out.
Yes. Yeah, boy, what a time is this? What a time is this?
Yeah.
We are just down to the wire. Ballots are dropping here in the next couple weeks.
On the 18th.
So I know we have listeners that are listening in from some of the other states. So I am quasi-committing to next year adding California into this equation. I've been laying the groundwork for it so that we can start to hear. We just need to know who the people are, because the only way that we're going to change the system, HeartBeat has focused on, voices of people that are not always heard or seen. We also bring on candidates that may or may not be endorsed by the party, but we still want their messages to be seen and heard, because the institution as it exists is still failing a lot of people. And so we can't let up off the throttle on making sure we know who candidates are that are stepping up forward and what kind of help they need, and try to help them raise money to get them elected, because we need to change outcomes, and to change outcomes we need new thinking, fresh blood, different people, different type of politics than what we currently live with.
We both come from California.
We do.
Put that out there.
Yeah, we do. We do. Yeah, I'm working on that. So I'm working on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we just need to hear, and we have some regular listeners from California, both Northern and Southern California, that have reached out to me separately and said, can you please help us? Like, we're reading the voters pamphlets, which are jargon, and nobody knows anything about the jargon. And so
I spend many nights on the phone and on Zoom with people with their booklet and their ballot. So it's a thing. It's a thing, especially when we're people like us who are just more connected to these people, and we can say, yes, we know Representative Jamila Taylor. She is outspoken. She is grounded. She is for the people. She is not your go along to get along. She is bringing people together. She is trying to make it better for folks in her community and Washington as a whole. I know Emily Randall. She's in my district. She's my senator. So I love that we can do that. And hopefully I'll be going to California here in November. We'll see. We'll see.
Hey, yes, look, thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you for Natasha Hill for coming on.
Yes.
We're just hopeful that we all step up and help her get over the finish line. A couple of announcements before I sign off. One is next week is an important show to tune into as well. We have a candidate. Her name is Claudia Kaufman. She's running in the 47th district, which is the Kent area. And she's running against a Republican, a Black Republican. And so we're going to break some things down next week with her to see if we can help get her over the finish line and elected. So please tune in next week, same time, same place for that. The other thing I wanted to announce is next week on Tuesday, the 11th, Rainier Avenue Radio will be hosting the King County prosecutor debate. So we're going to get to hear from Lisa Mannion. She has been on HeartBeat. We've heard her. So she's coming in person into the Columbia City Theater, where Rainier Avenue Radio is, to debate Jim Farrell, the current Federal Way mayor. So we're looking forward to that as well. We need to help get Lisa Mannion elected.
That's right.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday. Have a good evening, everyone.
That up in Saks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.